Let's go JavaScripting! Hi everybody and welcome to another exciting edition of Boring JavaScript. I'm your host, the Virtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and today we're going to be talking about the find method on arrays. Now, through the years, as more and more people have used JavaScript, they have given us better and better ways to perform certain functions, especially on arrays. For example, suppose you wanted to find an element with an array. Well, index_of worked great. The problem with index_of is, though, it worked on primitive data types. And as you all well know, if you have arrays, more than likely they're complex elements, objects, or anything like that within the array. Well, how did you find those elements? Well, you just used a for loop or a while loop or something like that. But then they all got together and said, wouldn't it be great if we have the developer supply a function to tell us whether a particular element matches what they're looking for or not, and we iterate over the array for them. And so they've given you a whole bunch of methods to be able to do those kind of things. And one of those methods is to be able to find an element in an array. And that is called the, guess what, find method. You want to see how it works? Let's get started. Now, the find method is really easy to use. I mean, ridiculously easy to use. So first thing we'll need is an array, and there's my array. But notice this is an array of objects. It's not an array of simple primitive values like strings or numbers. If we had that, we could just use index_of and be done with it. But no, in this particular case, we have objects. So index_of is not going to work for us. So that's why we have the find method. And the find method, again, allows us to find elements within an array, or find the first element within an array that matches a certain criteria. Now, the find method you pass, or within the find method, you pass to it a function. And the idea here is that this function is that the find method will iterate through your array and pass each element over to your function. The job of your function is to be able to make some sort of test and return either true or false. True means, hey, it matched this element, so then find will then return that element to the variable that you've assigned it to and stop the iteration. False, it means it will continue on with the iteration until it finishes up. In which case, if it finishes up and can't find anything, it returns undefined. So the function is right here, and you get passed 3 arguments from JavaScript. JavaScript will pass you 3 arguments. The first one is the element that is being passed of the iteration as it iterates. The second one is the index number. And the third one is the array that is being iterated. Now, in this particular case, all I really care about is the element itself. I don't care about the index number, nor do I care about the array that's being iterated. That doesn't matter. So I've got my function here. I'm being passed each element, which I'm calling animal. And the only thing I'm testing here is to find out if the type property of each object, because notice each object up here has a type property. If the type property is equal to cat. And that's it. If it doesn't equal to cat, it returns false, and the find method will just continue its iteration. If it does equal cat, find method will stop its iteration and return that element to the program, back to the whatever variable you've assigned it to. So therefore, in this case, I do have a cat. It happens to be the very first object in my zoo here. So this should end up being true the very first time through, and once it's true, it will assign my cat to the element. So my cat should equal this particular element, type, name, class, fluffy, cat, and mammalia. So we're console logging mycat.name. What we should get if we run this program is the zoo's cat name is Fluffy, because the find method should find the very first type, the very first object here, because animal type is equal to cat. You want to see how it works? Of course you do. Well, let's type in node find. Yep, there it is. The zoo's cat is named Fluffy. So it worked like a champ. So that's what happens if it finds it. Now, originally I told you that if you return false for every single iteration of your array, the find method will return undefined. Let's check that to make absolutely certain. So I've got some code down here. Let's bring it to the top here. And I am now going to be checking for zebra. So again, it's the find method. I'm passing animal, and my animal type is going to be equal to zebra. Well, if you take a look up here, there is no zebra inside my zoo. So what I should expect is that after find goes through all those iterations and I return false for this test each and every single time, it's going to come back and say my zebra should be undefined. So I'm testing for my zebra to be undefined, and if it is, I should get sorry, but we have no zebras in the zoo. If it isn't undefined, then it's going to give that. Believe me, it's going to return undefined. But let's take a look at it to be absolutely certain. Let's go into Node. Let's clear off the screen. Let's go to Node Find. And yep, there it is. Sorry, but we have no zebras in the zoo. So to recap, and why are we recapping? Because that's it. There is nothing else to the find method. It's extremely easy to use. So to recap, your job is to give it a function, and this function is to do some sort of test, and your job is to return true or false. If it returns true, the find method will return that element to whatever variable is consuming the find method there. If it returns false, it's going to return undefined once it finishes iterating everything. And that's it. So find is a really wonderful way of being able to parse out complex arrays like I have here, where basically each element within an array is some sort of object or something other than a primitive data type. So again, if you got a primitive data type, you just use index of and be done with it. If you got stuff like this, use the find method. It will make your life easy as all get out. And that's all there is to the find method on arrays. I hope you enjoyed our video. Hope it didn't bore you to death. Please view all of our videos at www.boringjavascript.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or check out everything we have at www.thevirtualoid.com. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.